Welcome. Tonight, we step into an age where true power didn't just rest on steel, but flowed from bloodlines believed to be sacred. From the silent nods of gods and from the weight of stories older than memory, imagine a realm where a king was more than a man. He was the echo of something divine. Every law spoken, every ritual offered, every grand feast held, it all shimmered with myth. But now, the air shifts, change murmurs where tradition once stood still. If this kind of story calls to you, go ahead and like the video. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. And in the comments, I'd love to know where you're listening from and what small daily rituals help you stay grounded. Whatever it is, we want to hear it. It's always a beautiful reminder that tradition lives on, even in the quietest parts of our day. Now, let's get settled. The city still sleeps when you step into the pale hush of dawn. Cool stone greets the soles of your sandals, grounding you in the ancient rhythm of Athens. A breeze stirs, light and expectant, carrying with it the distant salt of the sea and the earthy breath of olive trees. The streets, usually alive with shouting merchants and spirited debate, are now tender in their quiet, soft, almost sacred in their silence. It is as if the city itself is holding its breath. You pass beneath shuttered windows and empty stoops, your himation drawn tight against the morning air, the folds falling just as your teacher once showed you, with care, with meaning. You move through a city not yet awake in this stillness, yet every sound seems to echo a little louder. Every step feels more deliberate. You are not simply walking, you are entering a threshold. This is not just another morning. The agora lies ahead, blanketed in silence. Soon it will roar to life with the cadence of bargaining, laughter, argument, and ideals. But for now, the stones are still cool, the statues silvered in shadow, the altars quiet. The temples sit in their twilight dignity, columns casting long fingers across the flagstones. Even the gods seem to wait. The very air feels alert, like it expects something from you. Not loud, not forceful, but insistent. Something has shifted, not outside, but within. This morning does not belong to habit or routine. It belongs to change. It belongs to choice. And you feel it pressing gently, the knowledge that today you begin to decide who you are, not just as a boy beneath a teacher's gaze, but as a thinking soul standing on the precipice of civic life, no longer hidden in the safety of instruction, no longer sheltered by the simplicity of childhood. You arrive at a moment that demands something deeper. You must choose what it means to be part of this city, not just to live in Athens, but to belong to her, in a place where even the youngest voice may rise in the assembly, where no throne determines fate. Silence, too, is a decision. You begin to realize every word, not spoken, shapes the polis, just as surely as every law debated or decree shouted from the Knicks. To remain still is to participate, whether you mean it or not. Today, your silence or your speech will echo in the choices that follow, in the direction Athens takes, and in the person you become. And yet, how do you know what to say? How do you reconcile the grave wisdom of your elders, their stories of heroism, discipline, sacrifice, with the fire of new ideas whispered among your peers, the restless yearning for something better? Can the old myths of gods and founders, etched into your memory with reverence, still speak truth in a world shaped by trade, war, and shifting tides? Can the tales of Theseus and the laws of Solon still guide your steps in a time when the city stretches and stains beneath new burdens? You were raised to honor tradition. You were taught that virtue lies in what has always been. But now, a voice within you begins to ask, softly, insistently, what if virtue requires walking a different path? What if progress is not betrayal, but fulfillment? What if honoring the past means reshaping it for the living? This moment, this first step, carries a quiet and complex weight. Under the towering marble of temples, you've memorized lines of poetry about justice and freedom. You've listened to teachers recite laws beneath sun-drenched colonnades and watched elders debate the will of the gods under olive trees. But never before have those words felt so near to your skin or so far from certainty. The city now asks something more of you. It does not ask for blind allegiance, nor polished speeches, nor immediate answers. It asks for courage, the quiet kind, the kind that trembles and still stands up. Not only the courage to speak, but the courage to think for yourself, to question, not for the sake of rebellion, but for the sake of truth, to doubt, not to destroy, but to deepen understanding. It asks for wisdom, not the kind you quote, but the kind that takes shape in long silences and uneasy questions. And it asks for action, not the dramatic gestures sung by poets, but the steady, thoughtful choice to care, to participate, to shape, even if only slightly, the direction in which the city moves. You are not here merely to inherit the city. You are here to co-create it. As you walk on, the streets widen. You pass a baker setting coals beneath a clay oven, a mother sweeping her doorstep with practiced grace, a man muttering a prayer to Hermes at the crossroads. All around you, life begins to stir, and still your thoughts return to the place where you are headed. Not just the assembly, but the space within yourself where conviction and uncertainty wrestle. You will stand amongst the voices that clash like cymbals, that argue and sing, that plead and provoke. you will see the tension between those who fear the city's soul is slipping away and those who believe it has yet to fully awaken. And you will feel your own voice tremble inside your chest, waiting to see if today is the day it finds its place among them. And through all of this, you will search, not for a perfect truth, not yet, but for the kind of question worth asking. Athens does not offer clarity. She offers the agora, open, chaotic, alive. She offers the Nyx, carved by calloused hands to echo the cries of a people who refuse to be ruled in silence. She offers myths and laws, beauty and contradiction, philosophy and policy, argument and belonging. She offers her flaws, and she offers you a place, not above, not below, but beside her, shoulder to shoulder, with craftsmen, soldiers, merchants, thinkers, strangers, and friends. This is your beginning. Your footsteps echo across ancient ones, joining the rhythm of centuries. The city stirs, yawns, reaches towards the light. The sky begins to shift, and somewhere beyond the rooftops, a rooster calls, sharp, clear, undeniable. Athens is waking, and she waits for you to speak. As you walk through the path of the young philosopher's first steps into the bustling heart of Athenian democracy, we see how deep and entangled the path of choosing can be, woven with lessons from old myths, the rules of the city, and the voices of its people. This moment is more than just a vote. It's where ideals crash into the stone of the real world, where doubts and hopes mix in a crowd of many faces, and where no answers comes without cost. The young philosopher does not walk away with certainty, but with something far more enduring, a growing sense that citizenship is not a static title, but a daily, living act. They have now seen that laws are not distant words etched on stone tablets. They ripple through fields and markets, into kitchens and temples, through the minds of children and the hands of builders. And they have felt how democracy doesn't demand perfection, it demands participation. In a world where even the wisest minds disagree, where progress risks offense and tradition guards meaning, being a citizen means standing up anyway, listening anyway, speaking anyway. In this moment, as the philosopher feels the ancient threads of the city binding them to something larger, something fragile, but fiercely alive, Athens is not just stone and law and ritual. It is memory and breath and debate. It is the weight of footsteps pressed into the marble by generations of thinkers, soldiers, mothers, poets. Every voice in the assembly, whether wrapped in fear or fire, is a thread spun from the soul of the city. Some threads tremble with the burden of the past. Others burn with the friction of the future, trying to emerge. Together, they form a living weave, beautiful in its contradictions, unfinished by design. Every vote cast, every gesture of dissent or agreement is a stitch in the city's ever-evolving tapestry. No single strand defines the image, but remove one, and the shape is never the same. In this realization, the philosopher's breath catches. The city is not held together by walls alone, or even by laws. It is held together by participation, by people showing up again and again, flawed and uncertain, ready to speak or simply to listen. As they prepare to speak or to remain in silence, they realize that the weight of the moment is not in being right, not in the crafting the most persuasive argument, nor in the anticipation of outcomes. It is in showing up honestly. It is standing where so many have stood before, feeling the crush of doubt, but refusing to yield to apathy. It is in bearing the weight of uncertainty, risking the sting of failure, and still acting with care, with intention, with hope. Because growing up, it turns out, is not about finally knowing the answers. It's about learning to live with the questions, carrying them like water in a cracked jar, knowing some truths will spill along the way, but still moving forward. The philosopher now understands the role of a thinker in a democracy is not to sit on the sidelines waiting for clarity to descend like divine light. Clarity rarely comes before the choice. It comes in fragments, often long after. The thinker must act while the fog remains, lighting small lamps with questions, not to lead blindly, but to walk with eyes open, to use doubt not as a cage, but as a compass, to ask better questions even when the answers remain just out of reach, to hold the past with respect like a grandfather's worn cloak, and still step into the unknown with eyes unblinking. And so, with the city swirling around them, voices clashing like waves on a rocky shore, sandals scraping against the sun-warmed stone, prayers murmured between clenched teeth, arguments flowering and unraveling in real time. The philosopher stands a little taller, not because they are certain. Certainty is a luxury too easily mistaken for wisdom. They stand taller because they are becoming, because they have chosen to belong not just to the city as it was, but to the city as it struggles to become. The vote they cast today may not change everything, but it will still shape something, a small edge of the fabric, a single thread, tugging toward a new direction, a question placed gently in the hand of history. And with each choice that follows, with each idea tested in the crucible of debate, with each value weighed not in isolation, but among neighbors and adversaries alike, the philosopher carries the quiet strength of those who came before, those who dared to plant seeds in hard soil, and with that strength they carry the trembling promise of those who will come after, those whose futures are silently written by the decisions made in rooms such as this. In the end, democracy, like philosophy, is not a destination, you arrive at and call complete. It is a practice, a rhythm, a risk, a shared burden, passed hand to hand. It is a never-ending dialogue between what has been, what is, and what might yet be, between caution and courage, between reverence and renewal, and it begins again and again, every time someone chooses to care, to listen, to reflect, to speak, or to step back with wisdom, to cast a vote, not because they are sure, but because they are present, and above all, to decide, not for perfection, but for participation, not for applause, but for accountability, not for the past alone, nor for the future alone, but for both, braided together into the living and the breath of the city. Because Athens lives not only in temples and laws, but in every soul that dares to ask, what is right and what must I do now in the name of it? And that, my friends, is where our story comes to a close for now. But stories have a way of echoing through time. Maybe this one found a place in yours. If it did, let me know what part stayed with you the most. Don't forget to like, share it with someone who might need this tale today, and subscribe so you don't miss on the next one. Until then, stay curious, stay kind, and keep listening for the stories all around you.